In life, oftentimes you'll come across a piece of art, book, film, whatever it may be, that will leave a lasting impression upon you. In the 70s, and even till this day, the Star Wars series left fans in awe, with its flashy lightsaber fights, epic villains, and well, C-3PO of course. Most people recognise the name, even if they haven't seen the films personally, and that is because it has grasped that elusive, iconic status within its genre. It has acted as a soft gateway into the diverse world of sci-fi, and certainly inspired countless spin-off media. But this is not a video about Star Wars. In fact, stylistically, this comparison may seem very random actually. The Yakuza series and Star Wars don't seem all too similar, but the impact they had upon my life, the way they have transcended art into something else, has led to them both leaving a lasting impression. If Star Wars acted as a soft gateway into the world of sci-fi, then Yakuza 0 is an unapologetic exhibition of every single dramatic revelation, absurdly hilarious side story, and Argos rivaling weapon catalogue that comprises what the Yakuza genre is. Yakuza 0 is Toshiro Nagoshi and Sega's magnum opus, a perfect prequel to a brilliant genre that I would without hesitation recommend to any newcomer interested in the series. The game feels expertly crafted in every quantifiable aspect, and so it does not sit right with me that there are still people, seasoned vets and newcomers alike in the gaming world, who have yet to experience Yakuza 0. Today I'm going to open up to you, the audience. I'm going to show you my infatuation, my passion that has developed into an unconditional love for Yakuza 0. I will, out of respect for this sacred series, not dare share any spoilers in this video, and will instead talk about the following sections from a broad perspective. By the end of this video, I hope to have convinced you that if you have yet to play this amazing game, that you should do so, and that your life will be genuinely better off for it. I promise, I'm not some crazed weeaboo, nor am I being held to ransom by Sega. Okay, and without any further intermissions, I present to you my love letter to Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0 is set in Japan's bubble era, a period of extremely high property prices in Japan during the second half of the 1980s, essentially an economic golden age. Suffice to say, everyone has cash, and they ain't afraid to flaunt it. Cash is so prevalent in this game that you literally beat money out of people in combat, and I'm so proud to say that this is completely a thing. The Star Wars flashy, and those seeking disco nostalgia will find great solace in this title. Money, and more specifically real estate, are central to the narrative. Without going into spoiler territory, acquisition of land is the objective of the Yakuza brass, and a murder complicates affairs. The crux of the story is not particularly unique to the crime genre. However, the style that is embroidered across the game helps build a world worth exploring, characters with defined personalities and depth, and the breadcrumb trail that drives you through the narrative. The world is set in two districts, Kamurocho and Sotenbori, fictionalized recreations of Tokyo's Kabuchiko and Osaka Dotonbori areas. Both cities are densely packed, open sandboxes that feature a whole parade of side activities to lose countless hours to. Again, money is your generous ticket here to explore the theme parks of Kamurocho and Sotenbori. Engage with bowling, pocket racing, and of course disco dancing, which I completely suck at, both in real life and in game. The sheer variety of minigames that are available at the start of the game is impressive, in scale and in genuine quality for the most part. It is easy to forget that you are playing as a character, knee-deep in the largest Japanese crime syndicate, when trying to customise your pocket race car to perfection to beat that one pesky child. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with this series, this may seem like incredible tonal dissonance. Surely these guys are too caught up in serious Yakuza affairs to be sectioning off hours trying to win a racing tournament against kids. But that for me is one of the fundamental aspects of Yakuza's charm. Who is to say that these guys don't need a bit of downtime from the gangster life? We all have our own hobbies, and so I have no problem with this. The fact is, this game has its style, it knows it and it owns it, and the reason that this works is because there is genuine substance to every feature of this game. The world, although smaller than many modern titles, is as mentioned, so densely packed that it truly feels lived in. Around every corner there is a new story to be told, whether it be training a hopeless dominatrix, acquiescing to a budding officer's regular stop and searches, or helping a street performer go to the toilet. This is a universe well worth spending countless hours in. I will touch on further about the tonal shifts in part 3, anyhow. Now, when I was first told about Yakuza 0's existence, the initial reservation I had towards the game was based upon the footage of its over-the-top, any object can be a viable weapon style combat. Having come from games such as Sleeping Dogs, I was taken aback by a supposedly gritty crime game having some of the most cartoony, slapstick-style juxtaposed with pure masculinity and brutality combat I'd ever seen. And to be honest, I looked at it and was like, nah, you're alright mate. It wasn't until I was able to borrow a copy from a friend for free that I conceded to give this game a chance. And as you must be able to tell, I'm oh so grateful that I did. In so many ways, Yakuza 0's combat perfectly exemplifies the title of this section. The combat at first glance is undoubtedly stylish, over the top, or rather just downright ridiculous. But because of the gameplay systems tied to the combat, and how attentively Sega has crafted this system, the combat has genuine substance. One of my favourite pastimes was playing Weapon Pick 'em Up Bingo, a term I definitely just haven't made up, to see what each weapon in the game could do to the thugs of Kamurocho and Sotenbori, and I was consistently amazed and entertained by the results. Between the two main characters, there is a great deal of moves, styles, and general upgrades to unlock that helped keep the combat from getting stale, whilst also unapologetically celebrating that Yakuza style I have come to love. Yakuza 0 tells the story of two characters, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima. The game features chapters and regularly switches the point of view between the two characters, from Kamurocho to Sotenbori, and two different sides of the same narrative. The game does a very good job of keeping the pace consistent, and leaving one character for the other usually comes after a juicy cliffhanger. This ebb and flow between the characters kept my investment in both their arcs, and with the cliffhangers in tow, the game has an episodic hook, something a lot of games seldom achieve. It helps that Kiryu and Majima are polar opposites. Kiryu is your typical kind-hearted, rough-around-the-edges hero, whereas Majima is a reclusive, eccentric figure, shrouded in mystery. They look different, they act different, and they most certainly fight differently. Where Kiryu prefers to utilise raw power and his license to fist, god no, that's not what I meant. NANI? Majima expresses his eccentricness in combat with finesse, flair and finger pokes all being fair game. Suffice to say, both characters feel unique, and worth playing as from both a narrative and gameplay perspective. Certain minigames and abilities are directly tied to one of the two characters, and so returning back to one of the cities reopens unique gameplay elements, which kept me incentivized to play as both characters equally. They also have their side missions completely unique to them, and these missions offer an examination into the contrast between their personalities. The narrative itself, because of its structure, almost becomes two loosely connected stories, with each progressing chapter gradually unravelling more links between the two characters, and their circumstances. Both stories are told very well, and whilst I do prefer one point of view over the other, this mainly is because I personally resonated heavily with one of the characters. As the plot unravels, the revelations, the major events, and of course the weaving of the two stories together are all done exceptionally well. The cities themselves, as mentioned in part 1, are recreations of districts in Tokyo and Osaka, and Sega excels in giving incredible personality to both these cities, making them feel distinct from one another, while still both being built around a similar gameplay loop. Yakuza 0 is an open world game, but comparatively to other open world games, the two cities featured are minuscule. You can navigate the maps very quickly, and normally this would lead to a sense of repetitiveness, at least you would think. But I never felt the inclination to stop exploring the world of Yakuza 0. After all, like in real life, the cities we live in are just a backdrop to all the adventures we have within them. The game doesn't have incredibly dynamic NPCs or interactions, a malleable open world that changes based on night, day, and time, nor will it make your jaw drop with incredibly sexy scenic views. Yet, because of the brilliantly entertaining side quests known as sub-stories in the game, the diverse minigames, and the 80s design draped through the clothes and colour palette, these two cities have distinct personalities. The world building is there to be seen, right when you boot up the game, and because of the smaller size map, you have no choice but to explore and appreciate the design that has gone into capturing a bygone era. Yakuza 0 is not what I would have expected from a crime game. The initial push in the West for the Yakuza series was that it was a Japanese GTA style game. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Yakuza 0 is nowhere near similar enough to GTA to warrant that comparison. The only conceivable way in which that comparison holds any sort of weight is that these games both feature crime in a city. That is it really. The Yakuza series, and in this case Yakuza 0, are games that really do just sit in their own category. Yes, some tropes are found in other games, but Yakuza is such a positive mismatch of styles, gameplay mechanics and tones that it needs to be assessed as its own entity. To understand how Yakuza 0 so expertly manages tone, I'm going to separate for the time being the story from the rest of the game. As a standalone narrative, Yakuza 0 is a very intense, well-written crime drama that takes itself very seriously. The dialogue, character designs, and the plot points covered are all consistent with the complexion of a story about gangsters. There are moments of graphic violence, despair, and death. This is a heavy story. Now, this is to say, there is a clear and consistent tone, which isn't always the case in the Yakuza series, but certainly in Zero, it commits to being a serious story. For a linear game, this would be sufficient, but of course, the Yakuza series is an open world game, and has always made an effort to provide the player with countless hours of content. So, when we move away from the story, there is an abrupt tonal shift. The game goes from being incredibly serious to outright cartoonish, and it just works. Seriously. Going from an intense pre-rendered cutscene to running a cabaret club, catfighting, yes that is a thing, and supporting the citizens of Kamurocho and Sotenbori with their absurd requests marks a clear shift from a serious crime story to the comedic life and adventures of the Yakuza world. Now, the reason Yakuza 0 succeeds in managing tone where other games might struggle is because there is a clear, defined distinction between the narrative and the gameplay section. It is not hard for a player to suspend their disbelief when it is so clear that these sub-stories, minigames and other shenanigans exist to entertain. They for the most part bear little relevance to the main narrative and are not considered canon, again in most cases. Kiryu and Majima have their own minigames unique to them, introduced within the narrative. But beyond that, the adventures they get up to in between the gangster shifts are so disconnected from the story. Both the story and the open world gameplay features can succeed as standalone elements in their own right. Yakuza 0 essentially provides a sense of escapism from its own story. This almost Inception-esque concept is refreshing. One moment you are solving a murder mystery, the next helping a punk band. In creating such a dramatic contrast between the story and the open world elements of the game, it is easier as the player to suspend your disbelief. These elements are all intentionally disconnected, and as such can be appreciated individually. Now, this doesn't mean that the story is completely 100% serious all the time, or the sub-stories are only full of humour. In fact, the Yakuza series has never been shy of having dramatic soap opera-esque twists, over-the-top action and moments of genuine pathos, but the game knows when to use these tropes to add excitement and change the pace. In the same sense, the sub-stories have genuine depth to them. Yes, a lot of them are silly and humorous by nature, but there are also quests full of social commentary, moments of sadness, and even light horror. And this delicate, precise tone-shifting style is one of the many reasons why I love this game. Yakuza 0 is for me a 10 out of 10 game. The story, gameplay, and the open world all work distinctly to create a small world that is easy to get lost within. The characters are interesting, scary, eccentric, funny, the combat encourages experimentation, and there are so many mini-games for you to sink your teeth in. The story is one of the best executed in gaming, so much so that I wish there was a series that could recreate it. The sub-stories in a world full of fetch quests, RNG and grind all serve a purpose, giving a great insight into Japanese society, humour, and of course, the weird, wonderful world of Yakuza. But above all, Yakuza 0 is a great gateway into a fantastic franchise, a franchise that is increasingly becoming more popular amongst the West. If you wish to get a flavour for what this series is about, Yakuza 0 is the perfect game for you.